Our devotional thought today comes from Jesus, the hard worker. Have you ever sat down and gone through like the first couple of chapters of the book of Mark, in which there's an 18-hour day period in Jesus' life spelled out in pretty good detail to begin to see what an average day in Jesus' life was all about? Jesus was a hard worker. Now, I want you to see that again in Mark chapter 6, beginning with verse 30. The apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour and told him all that they had done and taught. Then Jesus said, "Let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while." He said this because there were so many people coming and going that Jesus and his apostles did not even have time to eat. Now, I want you to notice, Jesus never pushed people away. It just was not in his heart to push people away. So he and his disciples, he and the apostles, did not even have time to eat. They were so busy teaching and so busy praying for people. Now, that shows you what kind of a hard worker Jesus is. Now, he looks at them and says, listen, okay, we have to understand we're still human. We need to pull away from this and get a little rest. And the only way to get some rest is to get away from the crowds of people and go off someplace. So he said, let's go off to a quiet place and rest. Now, so they left, verse 32, by a boat for a quiet place where they could be alone. But the people recognized them, verse 33, and saw them leaving. And the people from many towns ran ahead of them along the shore and got there ahead of them. Jesus saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat and had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. So bless his heart. They're so busy, they don't even have time to eat. They try to go to another area of the lake, quiet place, and everybody can watch them. I mean, they can watch their boats out there on the Sea of Galilee, and they just ran around the shore ahead of them. And when Jesus got there, the crowds are waiting for him again. But did you notice? He never got angry. He never said, "This is my day off. I want my day off." He never did that. He had compassion on the people, and he continued to teach them. And so, all right, he goes through all of that. And then after he gets to the end of that day, he's taught the people, he's fed the people. And then in verse 47, it said, late that night, the disciples were in their boat in the middle of the lake, and Jesus was alone on land. He'd sent them ahead, and he was going to send the people away. Beginning with verse 53. After they had crossed the lake and landed at Gennesaret, Jesus went walking to them, remember, and they got into the boat with them when the storm ended. They brought the boat to shore and climbed out. People recognized Jesus at once. And they ran throughout the whole area, carrying sick people on mats to wherever they heard he was. And everywhere he went, in villages, cities, or countrysides, they brought the sick to the marketplaces, and they begged him to let the sick touch at least the fringe of his robe, and all who touched him were healed. Now, beloved, you look at this. There was never a time Jesus pushed anybody away. Now, I think part of this is the woman with the issue of blood. Her testimony was really doing the work in the Sea of Galilee. And everybody said, well, she got healed when she touched the hem of his garment. We're going to do the same. All of these things went together so that Jesus had no place to rest. And at some point, he's fully God, but he's also fully man. But I'm just amazed at the fact Jesus never said, this is my day off, leave me alone. Jesus never pushed anybody away. Jesus said, I'm tired, leave me alone. Jesus never pushed anybody away. And what a principle of ministry to remember. Now, when you look at that, you also say, but Pastor, he was telling the apostles they need to get some rest. And that's true. He said, let's come away to a quiet place, verse 31, and rest a while. Now, how did Jesus define a quiet place? In verse 32, they left the boat for a quiet place. Now, notice, a quiet place. Another translation says, for a remote place, verse 35. Late in the afternoon, his disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place. That's where they had gone, a remote place. The place that you're going to find rest in life is not in the crowds of people. The place you're going to find rest is a quiet place, defined in verse 35 as a remote place. You know, Baguio is not a place to get any rest during holiday season. Tagaytay is not a place to get any rest on the weekend. I mean, those places are jammed with people. The Mall of Asia is not a place to get any rest on a holiday season. Maybe on Monday morning, you can walk, it's quiet, nobody's there. When they first open on Monday, one of the reasons I like Mondays as a day off, things are quiet. Beloved, if you need some rest, may I please encourage you in this thought, go to a remote place. If you need rest for your souls, go to a quiet, remote place and get some rest. But now I've taught you all of that, but there's one more thing you have to see here. Jesus gave up his rest, but he would not give up his prayer time. If you look at verses 45 and 46, immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and head back across the lake to Bethsaida, while he sent the people home. After telling everyone goodbye, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Jesus gave up rest time, but at night, when everybody else was going home, he went up to the mountain to be alone. The greatest recharging I know is to go spend some time in prayer. Find a place alone and pray.